You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, we are Enterprise Splaining, the podcast where we explain Star Trek Enterprise to each other and to you. I'm Jamie, and these are my co-hosts, Bill and Maria.
Hello, I have information about your warranty that you may find interesting. Please contact Starfleet at...
We're too early in the series to be making fun of ourselves quite this much.
No, this is how you generate the bits. This is the thing that becomes a ritual for the podcast.
All right, well.
Okay, let's go. Let's do this.
Today we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 7 of Star Trek Enterprise, the Andorian Incident. However, I am the only person here who's actually watched it, so it's my job to explain to my co-hosts what happened on the episode. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about last week's episode. Last week, Maria, you told us about the episode Terra Nova. Bill and I have finally watched it. So, Bill, what did you think of it?
Jesus, Maria, you really took one for the team on this. I mean, I don't know if it's... You just have bad luck with episodes, because my notes for this episode are, this is bad. This is bad. And I know that...
Goddamn hero. It is ridiculous.
Maria, thank you for your service in watching Terra Nova. There's bad where you take a big swing and you miss, and you're like, well, I respect the effort. There's bad where it's like, okay, this didn't work. This should not have been put on television.
It was lazy, weird writing.
They should have shown a blank screen for 48 minutes, interrupted by commercials. This is bad writing, bad makeup, and I don't even know what the point of this was supposed to be. It makes everybody on the show, everybody in Starfleet, look like an idiot. Like, they cannot elucidate the points that they are trying to make to these people.
Can we talk about the makeup? Because I was confused about whether they were supposed to be wearing face paint, or if that's what their skin looked like from being underground. It looked like face paint because it was like their mouth and above. Yeah. Only. It wasn't their, like, chin or the rest of their body. Only their mouth and above was white.
I think it was...
Stephen kept calling it spackle. It looked like they spackled the top of their face.
And they definitely had actual...
like a popcorn ceiling.
They had actual green and blue paint over that, as, like, with lines that was clearly paint. But then, I swear, somewhere in the episode, someone mentioned that that's what they look like. And I'm like, wait, is that actually supposed to be their skin?
It reminded me of when I was a kid and you would get those Halloween kits and it's supposed to be like, oh, they show the photo like that a professional Hollywood makeup artist has done where your face is melting and you put it on, it's just like a red spot on you. Like, no, this was bad.
It was terrible, and I don't know, Jamie. Like, I initially thought it had to do with they were exposed to radiation and then they were down in caves for a long time, and that somehow caused some sort of skin condition, but it was never...
They lost all their access to mirrors and lighting, so they don't know how to apply their makeup anymore. It's like trying to get ready in the dark.
They've got mismatched shoes. You just...
It's a 3 a.m. flight. You don't want to wake up the kids in the hotel room.
Yeah, I don't know, you guys. At one point, Stephen yelled, "Okay, insane clown posse!" at the
That episode.
So, yeah, it was a rough episode.
Yeah, my problem with it was like, and I love a mystery, and I love an episode with like a good mystery, but you have to stick the landing. And the problem with this mystery is the twist. Like, once we found out what was going on, it made no sense. You're like, whoa, wait. That literally could not have happened.
They were so dumb. Dumb. Like, it's not logical in any way that could have happened that way. And I think the thing that I like that Star Trek typically does well, is sort of holds a mirror up to society, and it felt like that was what they were trying to do, but it never got to an actual point.
I think maybe if we have the time, and I can't imagine why anybody would do this, we might need to collectively revisit this episode because it's just such a fascinating thing.
Let's not.
I don't think not ever revisit that episode.
Nope, I don't think so. I've already watched that episode more times than I ever need to watch it again.
So you're suggesting we treat it like a jewel heist where we all just walk away and pretend it never happened?
Yep, this is our moment at the Bellagio fountains.
What happens on Terra Nova stays on Terra Nova.
Never speak of it again.
I was never there. Prove I was there. I'm out.
Now that we got that out of the way, it's time to talk about this week's episode. Computer, what episode will we be talking about this week?
The Andorian Incident. When visiting an ancient Vulcan spiritual temple, the crew of the Enterprise discovers that the monastery has been overthrown by Andorians, an alien race with a history of fighting with Vulcans.
Two truths and a lie.
Oh,
I'm going to tell you guys 3 statements about the episode, one of which is a lie. Statement 1. Malcolm finally gets to blow something up. You know he's been wanting to.
Does he actually do it, though?
Since episode 3, when he was going to blow that door off, and then Archer was like, it just has a handle.
It just has a handle. And also the time, like the one episode where he was like shooting at asteroids.
Yeah.
And missing.
Torpedoes. Is Malcolm the security chief? Have we figured out what someone's job on this fucking show is?
He's definitely I don't think it's called security, but he's security.
Chief of blowing stuff up.
Yeah, chief weapons dude.
Yeah, but he clearly loves to blow things up. So statement 1, Malcolm finally gets to blow something up.
Okay.
Statement 2, the Vulcans, who famously claim they never lie, are caught straight up lying.
Ooh, I like that one.
Statement 3, Trip is allowed into a sacred Vulcan catacombs and accidentally sets one of the mummies on fire.
Now, the key word here is accidentally.
That's a good point.
Maria, which one of those do you think is the lie?
That's so difficult. I would like... I'm going to go with the lie is the very first one.
Malcolm unfortunately will not get to blow something up.
Malcolm doesn't get to blow anything up.
What about you, Bill?
What was the second statement?
The second one was the Vulcans, who famously claim they never lie, are caught straight up lying.
Okay. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm gonna have to go with Trip accidentally sets a mummy on fire.
Oh God! I hope you're right. I hope you're wrong.
The circumstance is just like I can picture that happening, but the chain of events that would have to lead up to him being in a Vulcan chamber and accidentally setting a mummy on fire.
But, Bill, after Terra Nova, do you really think that the show cares about narrative continuity?
Also, have you met Trip?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my gut. Even if I'm wrong, I've been wrong before, I'm prepared to be wrong again. My question is, maybe he set it on fire on purpose.
That's a good point.
The only way out of here, we need something to set off this explosive. Hold on a second, I gotta
set off the smoke alarm.
He ties one end of the mummy to the detonator and then rolls it away.
Malcolm would be so jealous.
All right, that's my pick. I stand by it.
So, cold open. We see what appears to be Vulcan monks praying. There is a knock at the door. Four heavily armed Andorians come in. So for the listeners, if they're not familiar with Andorians, they are all blue and they have these little antennae, or I guess antennas is the plural. And I don't know how it is in TNG or original series, but the antennas like moved like little worms.
They absolutely did not move in original series. They didn't have the tech
Oh,
for that.
these definitely, they were like articulated, and they like, and they moved like independent of each other, like little worms moving around. It was real creepy looking.
I'm sorry. In one of the new series, isn't the doctor, or no, the engineer is a blind Andorian, isn't he?
Yeah, in
That's what I was
Strange
thinking.
New Worlds,
Strange New World.
the engineer is a blind Andorian.
I didn't realize he was an Andorian.
Yep.
But there's something different. Like, he's very white. He's not blue. So there's something about him. I can't remember
He's
what it
sort of been
is.
blanched. There's like he's not he's not Smurf blue, but he's
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway,
Sorry, now I've got Tobias Funky in my head. I blew myself.
Well, that was the entire cold open.
Okay.
It was like
They just
40
show up?
seconds long.
wait. So the Andorians show up and just threaten them?
There's Vulcan monks praying, some Andorians bang on the door and come in, and they are heavily armed. And that's it. That's that's the entire cold open.
Do they translate the chanting? Is it like 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8? They're doing the Inchworm song by Danny Kaye.
Which means it's now time for the Diane Warren update of the week.
It is.
Oh my god!
I'm glad that you are excited about it, Bill, because
I
I love her so much, and I get so excited
forward.
to talk about her every week.
Every chance I get to go to this well is it's more your excitement about it.
When we first started this, Maria was like, "Do you think that you'll have enough stuff for every week?" I need you guys to know I have like a list for future episodes that is quite long.
I had no idea, no conception of how complex and currently relevant Diane Warren is. Also, I would like to say that in a previous episode, and it's either 1, 2, or 3, I called her Diane Kirkland for some reason. So
Had you just gone to Costco?
it's because I keep calling the guy who sings the song Kirkland Brand Rod Stewart. So I had that in my head. That's why.
Last week, in the timeline that we are recording in, not the one people are listening in, because this happened months ago for the people listening. But last week for us was the Oscars, where Diane Warren lost to Billie Eilish. It was her 15th loss.
Boo!
I watched the entire Oscars for this podcast to see if they showed her. I don't have any other reason to watch it because I have not seen one movie that was nominated for an Oscar this year.
Oh, wow.
I've only seen one movie that was made in the past, or that came out in the past year, and it did
Aquaman,
not
The
get
Lost
an
Kingdom.
Oscar nomination. It was Bottoms.
You haven't seen Barbie?
I have not seen the Barbie movie.
you should
I
see
need to
Barbie.
see it. I know, I need to see it. No, the only movie I've seen in the past year that came out this year was Bottoms. That did not get an Oscar, but it probably should have. So I watched the entire Oscars just in case they showed Diane Warren. They showed her one time. It was when they announced that it was when they announced Becky G's performance of The Fire Inside, which she sang with a children's choir for some reason. It was not good.
What?
Okay.
It was really weird too, because Becky G was wearing like a very sexy outfit, and then halfway through, like all the children came out, and then it was like very weird for her to be wearing this like very sexy outfit, but also there's a children's choir. It was strange, you guys. But they briefly, when they were announcing the performance, cut to Diane Warren in the audience for like half of a second, and she was wearing a like black
Cheeto.
She was not wearing a Cheeto, but she was wearing like a black suit jacket, and the lapels had sparkly flames on them.
Excellent.
I just had this. I had
cool.
this image of her like in a black suit jacket with like a pin that's shaped like a Cheeto, or like actually a literal Cheeto on a safety pin.
It's like the kind of
be
thing that she
awesome.
would do, because she like does her job. It doesn't matter if she is there for the like Top Gun movie or she's there for the Cheetos movie. Like, she is going to promote it.
How amazing would it be if she had like a clutch purse that's like one of those ones that's basically big enough to keep a stick of gum in, and she opened it up, it was just like taking Cheetos out and just eating it the entire time.
And it never ended.
She had a body man next to her who was just like repeatedly filling it with Cheetos throughout the day.
But you may be asking, well, like, wouldn't they have shown her again when they announced the nominees for the song?
Right.
They did not announce the nominees for the song. What? So Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, because they're the stars of the upcoming Wicked, they're the ones that announced the original song winner, and they did not read through the list of nominees first.
I wonder if that's normal because they always play the songs. That
So
doesn't seem normal.
it is
though.
not normal. They don't usually do this, but apparently they did it this year. So the only ones they did it on was for song, and then they did it for best movie.
Yeah, that was
didn't
very
do it
controversial that
either.
Pacino didn't read all the nominees.
How
Yeah.
Picture.
weird.
And the reason was because they were like, well, for both, like for the songs, as you mentioned, like they already got all the performances. And then for the best movie, they'd already shown like little trailers throughout the whole
for each
night.
one. Yeah.
So I guess they felt like they didn't need to announce it again.
Yeah.
But it was very weird. Both times it was real weird that they didn't.
Yeah.
So the gossip on the street, this is...
Jamie's hanging out in the alleyways with the Diane Warren crew.
The gossip out on Hollywood Boulevard, I guess. This is actually according to Puck Newsletter. That's the Matt Bellany newsletter, which we cannot get into that, man.
Thank you for citing your sources, Jamie. I really appreciate it. For the future
well,
archivists who are
it's
distressed.
gossip. You got to know where it came from. So according to Matt Bellany, he has 2 eyewitnesses that claim
He has 2 eyewitnesses is great.
This took place before the episode started, but Jamie was criticizing that the episodes are getting too long and we need to cut out things. This is Jamie's move to actually turn this into a Diane Warren podcast and just get rid of the Enterprise part altogether.
Jamie has openly said that already.
okay,
She has already said that she made us do this podcast as a sneak way for her to create a Diane Warren
what
podcast.
happened was we were talking about Enterprise again for some reason, and I was like, that show, everything I hear is crazy. And then Maria's like, have you heard the theme song? And I was like, what theme song? And I Googled Enterprise theme song, and then the Wikipedia page, the first thing was said it written by Diane Warren, and I turned to Maria and I was like, Maria, we got to do a podcast. This is true. That is the order that it happened in. I saw that and I was like, I need this.
This is how this is going to go.
Okay, so this is a quote from Matt Bellany.
Okay.
Warren was so pissed at not being mentioned there that she leapt from her seat and started running around the orchestra level looking for Board of Governor members to complain to.
My girl.
Absolutely did not happen, but amazing story.
Eva Longoria, director of Flamin' Hot, saw the unfolding scene and bailed for the lobby.
Did not happen. Absolutely. 100%
No, I
did not happen.
100% believe. I totally believe this is her 15th time being nominated. She's never won. She was not planning to win again. Her moment is the moment when they say her name and they show her and she gets to smile.
Absolutely.
And they skipped it. And if I were her, I would be pissed too. And if I were as connected as she was, I mean, she is very beloved in Hollywood and she knows all the board of governors.
I just feel like you're right. I feel like, because that's what I was thinking when we were talking about the fact that they didn't show him. I'm like, if I was ever nominated for a fucking Oscar, the thing that I want to see is the reaction shots when the nominations are read out.
Like, that's say your name.
That's you
and
on
go
the
to you, and
Oscars.
you're in the then you smile and like look at the camera
and kind of clap. Yeah, of course, absolutely, you'd want to do that.
Yeah, I would be pissed if I were her too.
When I win my Oscar, I'm going to insist on it.
So-
but I don't but it's because she's a pro and because she's lost so many times. I refuse to believe that she might have bitched to somebody afterwards that they didn't do it, but I refuse to believe that she stormed the orchestra.
Yeah, I don't think like this whole she left from her seat and started running around the orchestra. Like, no,
There's some hyperbole there.
She had a flare gun in each hand and fired it into the stadium, saying,
No, what
"I'm
she
Diane
did-
Warren, bitches."
I can totally believe that immediately. Like they probably cut to commercial and like they probably announced the winner and then cut to commercial, and I bet she stood up and she went around finding the people in charge and told them how unhappy she was.
Sure.
I 100% believe that.
Plausible.
Me
But,
too. I agree.
Her people
she's going to be fine. The morning after the Oscars.
I was
Wait.
worried.
Are you telling me this woman who's written mega hits for some of the biggest movies in history is going to be okay?
She's going to be okay. So the morning after the Oscars, TMZ posted an interview with her, but I saw headlines about this, and the headlines were she was saying, "Stay tuned for 16. That's the best of them all," meaning she's working on a song that she believes is going to win at next year's Oscars.
Oh, look at Diane Warren throwing it down.
But when I
her.
actually went and watched the video of the interview, using the term interview is
Generous?
questionable. Yeah, it
She
is a
was-
generous
she was-
term for what happened.
She was at the airport's kiosk trying to get the label for her luggage, and somebody came
Bill?
up to her.
She was at the airport check-in area. This is a video that is like a shaky cell phone video of like some guy from TMZ running up to her at the airport when she's like dressed for her comfy flight, and she's like got her luggage with her, and
Amazing.
they're like asking her questions, and she keeps like kind of turning to leave, and then they ask another question and she like stops and talks to them. And then finally she kind of gets sick of it and she just like starts leaving. And this guy's literally like running after her. He's telling her
God.
his ranking of what he thinks her top 3 songs are.
Worst.
And then
worst
like
channel.
she stops to like sign an autograph for someone. And then after that, she's kind of like, okay. And then she starts to leave again. And he's like, this guy is literally like, wait, do you agree with my ranking? Do you agree that these are your top 3 songs? And she's like, I gotta go. And she just
Fucking
like
asshole.
goes up an escalator. And the interview ends because she's like going up an escalator.
Oh my god, that is incredible. This poor woman, she's like, I want to get to my gate so I can get some M&Ms and sit down and wait.
All right. So back to the episode. Forgot we were
Well,
doing.
thank you, Jamie. That was a epic Diane Warren fact of the week.
So Trip is complaining to Archer that it sucks that the Vulcans gave them star charts, because what is the point of going someplace that other people have already been?
Fucking hell.
Like,
What
he's
the
mad that they were given maps.
What the actual
So-
fucking hell?
To cheer him up, Archer tells him that, like, well, remember that protostar we saw last week? It wasn't on the Vulcan star map. And then both of them are just acting so smug about it. Like, oh, like, we know something the Vulcans don't know about. Like they don't say that, but like it's on their faces are like, those Vulcans, they don't know anything. They missed a whole star.
They couldn't find a star with 2 hands and a star map.
Amazing.
And then T'Pol comes in. And Archer asks her, he points out that on the map there's like some planet that they're going to be coming up on. And he asks her about it. And she says it's called Pajem. And it is an ancient Vulcan spiritual retreat for peaceful meditations and Kolinar, which she calls the Vulcan purging of emotion.
Okay. So now,
I'm not
Boring.
familiar with that, but I'm assuming that it's something that you guys are familiar with.
it came up in was it Star Trek: The Motion Picture? It was the thing that Spock failed. But here's my question: is
Yeah,
do the Vulcans have
Wait,
quote unquote
I saw
religion?
that, so then should I know?
No, but Jamie, I'm the same way. Like I recognize the word. I vaguely remember it. I don't think it's not something that is like really super well known, but it's been mentioned a couple
Okay,
of times.
huh.
I think.
Yeah,
I
in
feel
Star
like-
Trek.
maybe, yeah. Keep going. It's fine.
I'm sorry. In Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the first time you see Spock is that he's on Vulcan in agony, and he's failed this procedure, which is why he ends up. There's something that calls him back to the Enterprise, which is how he gets involved with all of that.
Right.
Well, yeah. So this is a Vulcan spiritual retreat, and Archer's like, we should go.
No, you absolutely shouldn't.
Time the fuck out. Okay, first of all, the
Sounds
question
like
I wanted to ask, Vulcan spiritual, do the Vulcans have religion? They're entirely logical. Do they believe in a higher power? Unclear.
I don't think that you need to believe in a higher power to be spiritual. I mean, I think
do they believe in
Judaism
supernatural?
Judaism doesn't require like a belief in God, and yet like people can still be spiritual without that.
I think they're highly ritualistic and very. I think that becomes spiritual. But yeah, I agree. It's unknown as to whether there is a higher power that is involved, and my guess is no, it is not.
And also the idea that Archer would treat this as an eat, pray, love situation where they can just go there.
I don't understand.
Oh, Bill, just wait.
What the fuck he's thinking? We should go is not what you say.
This is our most sacred
site.
When
you find out it's basically a monastery. T'Pol is like, this is a terrible idea. And Archer's like, let's go anyways.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
And when I tell you,
I really want to write an episode of Lower Decks where they go to Enterprise and literally every line T'Pol says is, "This is a terrible idea."
It's a terrible idea.
Like, Girly is shooting daggers at them with her eyes. She is like looking at them like, "Are you kidding me?"
I gotta say, though, on this one, I feel like she could have stopped them. Like, I feel like she could have been like, no, it is forbidden for anybody other than a Vulcan, and you need to sit your ass
it's
down.
It's not technically forbidden, I guess.
Oh,
it's
and she can't lie?
Well.
Supposedly.
She supposedly can't lie, but I mean, she has bent the truth. We've already established, even beyond your two truths and a lie, we've already established that she'll bend the truth.
Okay, well, so we get a little bit about what she might be thinking in the following scene. She is eating salad with Phlox.
Oh, God, they're eating. No, they're eating. No. T'Pol, eat in your cabin. Do not go into the mess room.
She is sitting with Phlox eating. Her plate is just like veggies. Like, it's just like, it's like some lettuce and like some carrots and some celery. And so she's eating and chatting with Phlox, and Phlox at one point just leans across the table and steals one of her pieces of celery. And then he takes it and he starts to eat it. And then she looks at him like, what the fuck are you doing? And then he looks at her and he kind of stops and realizes he did a faux pas. And then he goes, may I? And she's like,
wow.
I guess. And then he just like eats the celery.
Okay, so thus far, up to where we are, we have not had a single episode.
Where they're just like eating food normally and not commenting
weird
on
shit happens with food.
Can someone, if we have any listeners, can someone just create a Blue Sky account
if
that is
we
just
have any
Yelp,
listeners? It's a great.
That can create a Blue Sky account that is just Yelp reviews of the Star Trek Enterprise mess.
So he's talking to her about like why she doesn't want to go visit the monastery, and he kind of figures out that she's just embarrassed to let other Vulcans see her with the Enterprise crew.
As well, she
should be. She's like literally embarrassed to be seen with those people.
How great would it be if, because Vulcans are very unemotional and the reason why they do the Vulcan salute is so that they don't touch, they don't shake hands, like they don't. It's like, how great would it be if she landed on Vulcan planet and everybody just hugged her? It's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. But wait, isn't embarrassment an emotion?
She doesn't say that she's embarrassed. Like, they don't use that word, but Phlox can just tell that she's like uncomfortable with the idea of introducing other Vulcans.
Well, here's the question.
The Enterprise.
Here's the question. How bad did T'Pol fuck up to be sent on this mission?
Right. This is not a high-level, high profile mission. This what did you do wrong?
But you guys, then we get Phlox asks T'Pol, I wonder if you'll remind me of our mission on this vessel. Indulge me. We finally get to find out what their mission is, you guys.
Oh, we're only, 6 episodes in?
We're like 7 episodes
No,
in.
7 episodes in, and now we get the mission.
So the mission.
Cool.
You guys ready for the mission?
No,
Please.
obviously not.
Absolutely not,
But yes.
please lay it on me.
T'Pol says, our mission is to make contact with those who humans consider new life and new civilizations. That's their mission.
Okay. The humans consider new life and new civilization.
Yeah, so just humans are going to go meet some new life
Humans
and
gonna
new
human.
civilizations.
Okay.
How fucking wild is it that Phlox, the doctor on this ship, didn't know that?
Well, no. The way it actually comes up is because she doesn't want to go to the planet.
Sure.
He says this to her as a way to sort of get her to because then after she says that, he's like, so isn't this sort of part of the mission? Like they're going to like get to meet new cultures. He's kind of trying to make her see that this is like good.
Oh, I thought he was trying to give her an excuse to give to the captain to not, like, you already know the Vulcans. You want new people. You don't, this is not part of our mission. This is not in our mission statement. This is scope creep.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking I was like, but they're not new.
Yeah, they're not new.
Like the Vulcans have known them for quite a while. If the Vulcans wanted to like show them this part of their culture, they could have done it a long time ago.
Okay, so I have 2 things. One thing is Riker is watching all of this. This is a full simulation. Question A is this actually Riker's fan fiction about how
things went down?
How things went down. This is my second question, and this is an actual serious question, and I may have asked this of you before, and I apologize if I have. Is this actually the origin story of the mirror universe? Is this the divergent point where it went from being, we're going to explore and try to make things better and learn from our mistakes, or this is the point where all goes wrong and we are going to conquer every race and slaughter everybody who disagrees with us?
I like thinking that what we're watching right now is the mirror universe side.
The origin of the Terran Star Empire? Okay.
Yeah, this is like, what if the first crew of Enterprise was terrible?
Shit.
Made everybody angry at us.
And then it just created
straight
the
up
whole
shit.
Because
evil mirror universe.
Listening to the first episode, Jamie, when they talked about like they blew up the Sulabot, this is an excellent way to get this race mad at you forever.
No, and they kept doing it. They do it so many times where they just casually kill a random alien.
They're not evil. They're just incredibly socially awkward to the point where it leads to genocide for every
We're 7 episodes in, and we have not had one episode where they just went down to a planet and met some aliens on the planet.
That's true. Not one.
So I know the tech startup thing I'm still married to, but this is the thing, is like, this is the origin story of the mirror universe, the Terran Star Empire.
I think, and in Terra Nova, they kept calling the humans Terrans.
Yes. Yeah.
Nope, they didn't.
Okay.
They call the people on the planet Terrans. Never mind.
All right. Anyway, this is my okay.
So,
You can cut that.
T'Pol is teaching Archer and Trip the protocols for when they go down to the monastery.
And I'm
Oh,
sure
boy.
they listen carefully and take detailed notes.
Oh, of course.
I'm
These
sure
are just
I'm
things
sure
like...
I'm sure that they're not putting on costumes that look like the Vulcan monks that they're wearing and putting on face paint. And...
They're going into Vulcan face.
Yes, exactly.
They're
They're not
putting on like
taking
some fake
iPhone
little ears
selfies.
to make them pointy.
Exactly. God.
So
they're bending their ears to, like, when I was a kid, when I was a 6-year-old watching Star Trek and bending my ears for a second to make them look like, yeah.
it's adorable.
That's actually super adorable.
Isn't it adorable? Yeah.
So these protocols are things like don't approach or talk to people who are meditating. Be quiet. Do not touch artifacts and relics and like stuff like that.
Don't blow any shit up.
She also
Never
mentions
say anything.
She also mentions that the monks don't have any technology, so they cannot call down ahead of time to let them know they're coming. So they're just gonna like barge in on them, which is gonna go great.
That's great.
So, okay.
I have no technology, Bill. Just never ask, never answer.
But you would think that there would be somebody, even for the people who are supposed to be there.
No,
like
they have no technology, Bill.
Fair enough.
They said they have no technology.
To make sure that they don't have diseases or they're going to wipe out. Okay, fair
she
enough.
said
Okay,
no
great.
technology.
Yep. Okay. Cool. They don't have forks and spoons. No. Okay. No technology.
Nope.
Okay.
No technology, Bill.
Yeah. So she tells Archer that they're going to offer him a sacred stone, and that he should take it, nod, and then be silent for 5 seconds. That's how you would be respectful.
That's gonna go well.
And then meanwhile, like Archer and Trip are listening to this, and like they're not rolling their eyes, but they're like close to it. They're like barely listening. They're acting like it is a joke.
Fucking Christ.
And then as T'Pol turns to leave, Archer leans over to Trip and goes, "I thought Starfleet was tough." As though like, be quiet, don't bother people who are meditating is like difficult.
Don't
like
break
difficult
shit.
rules.
You are
Don't
literally
touch everything.
entering.
Don't touch a bunch of sacred relics.
You are literally entering the holiest site of my people. Okay,
whatever.
When you take an Instagram photo, don't put clown hat filter on everybody that you see.
All right, so I guess I won't take a shit in the middle of the temple. Like what?
So this is gonna go well, great, you guys.
This is great.
So they get to the monastery, and the first thing they notice is that the door looks like it's been bashed in. But T'Pol's not worried. She says that the temple is 3,000 years old. So, like, shit has happened. There's, like, this big bell on the outside that she rings. And they wait approximately 1.5 seconds before being like, I guess no one's coming, and just barging in. They literally ring, look at each other, and then open the door. So when they walk in, there's
so bad at their
one
jobs.
Vulcan. He's wearing robes, and he's like standing in front of this like divider thing. And on the wall behind him is this giant creepy stone face, like like built into the wall, like a stone face that has holes in the eyes and the mouth.
Yep.
And T'Pol goes over and like quietly talks to him, and then comes back and tells Archer and Trip that unfortunately this is the time of Kulinar and the monks cannot be disturbed, so they will not be able to go in and meet them. And Archer's like, well, that's too bad. Oh well, I guess we'll leave. And then
Trip demands to speak to their manager.
T'Pol asks the Vulcan guy, who I'm just gonna call the like head monk because we never get his name. Sure. T'Pol asks him if they can now be given the like stone thing because these are like honored guests. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay. So then he's like, I gotta go get it. So he leaves. While he's getting it, T'Pol's looking around and she's looking a little bit disturbed. And Archer asks her if something's wrong, and she says that there should be more monks in the atrium. And also some of the artifacts have fallen over, but what she says about it is that they, quote, are perched at an odd angle. They're literally just like they've like fallen over. And then Trip goes, oh, oddly perched, huh? Better call Starfleet Command. Like,
what the hell, man?
It doesn't need to be so rude. Like, something is clearly weird. Like, the door was bashed in. There's, like, artifacts just, like, on their side. Like, something seemed like something is off. And he's just, like, being so rude. But, like, oh, an artifact fell over. And it's like, no, something is not right.
Right.
Like,
Wow.
clearly he learned nothing from his, like, weird racist drug trip that he did. That he, like, supposedly learned not to be xenophobic.
There were like 2 of those. Like, that happened to him multiple times.
Look, Trip was pregnant. He's clearly in postpartum depression right now. So we need to give him some space and let him feel his emotions.
It's a little bitchy, that's fine.
So the monk comes back and offers him the stone and says a prayer. And remember what Archer was supposed to do? Just nod
just
and be
pause.
silent for 5 minutes. Instead, Archer immediately goes, "What does that mean anyway?" And then,
Oh God, he's
and then
so bad.
he starts kind of like wandering around the room, and he's clearly like looking to like see if anything's up. And he's like wandering around the room, just like chatting, but just being so rude about it. Like he's
Is
like
he wearing a Hawaiian shirt?
Exactly, yeah. Now, here's the thing. You said he's like looking around for stuff. Is he giving the vibe of like, I'm sensing that something is off on this? Is there like
we as the audience know that something is off, but the
Right.
vibe that he's giving to the monk is, I'm just a stupid tourist. I'm just silly and don't know how to behave.
Okay,
But he's clearly like looking around
wonder,
because something's not right.
in classic television, like, because just I've been watching a lot of 60s and 70s television. This situation where he's literally trying to make things awkward because clearly this tries just because of
Something's
what
wrong.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
No,
oh, is
he's.
this? Yeah.
I think he's just stalling so he can like look around more.
Okay.
And then
You know what would have helped you stall? Pausing for 5 seconds.
but it like he doesn't need to say like he's like, will it give me any good luck?
Oh my God, he's...
And then Trip is doing this too. So Trip is like, no, you're mixing it up with the Blarney Stone.
He does not say that. Jamie, you are fucking...
Bill?
Jamie, you are lying to me.
That.
No, this is the lie, Jamie. This is a lie. At no point does Trip, a Southern American living in the 24th century, say it's like the Blarney Stone while standing in the most holy site of an alien race. That does not happen.
No, that's not what happened.
Have you met Trip?
Bill, that's not what he said. He said it's not the Blarney Stone.
Jesus Christ.
So as this is happening, Archer notices some movement behind that divider. And he kind of like motions to Trip, like, come over here with his head.
Okay,
And
so he
then
has figured it out.
He and Trip then, instead of just, so it's a divider, like, you know the like 3-part divider things for like fancy people getting changed?
Yep.
Like the changing divider. It's like that. And he's standing on the end of it. And this guy that he can see through the thing is clearly like crouched on the edge. He could just go around, but instead they smash through it, destroy the divider. And grab
Well, the
an
artifact has been around for 60,000 years. Okay, sure.
they
fine.
grab an Andorian that was hiding behind it, and they like take his gun away. But right as they do that, the 3 other Andorians come out and turn their guns on them, and then everybody is taken hostage.
Okay, so we've had our fun, but I honestly, I do want to, in terms of fiction, I want to praise Archer because they came to this holy site, the doors were blasted in, a guy was acting super weird, and they saw people, like, he did his job, like, as the hero of a Star Trek series.
But he could have done it with a little more cultural sensitivity.
And also, they sounds like they made fun of T'Pol for pointing out things that were legit, which is sort of part of how he... It's this whole thing that Archer does. So Archer does this thing that I noticed in the last episode where T'Pol will make a very good point. He will tell her, like, not tell her she's wrong, but yell at her about it and then do exactly what she wants him to do because he knows she's right.
I will just say, look, I'm not saying that in reality, in the future of the 24th century, I recommend human beings do this. I'm just saying, in terms of television writing, acting like a boorish idiot to expose the fraud that is going, it's like you see somebody opens the door in the super universe. hello, officer. No, everything is absolutely fine here. There's been no robbers in this area. Like, okay, that's a base level that I'm willing to accept.
Sure.
Did they execute it well? I don't know.
This is where I want to mention that the head Andorian is being played by Jeffrey Combs.
Ooh, love him.
Yeah, which you guys recognize, but a lot of listeners might not. He plays a ton of Trek characters, including, in my opinion, I think the most memorable is Wei Yun from DS9. Yeah. And per the usual, in every scene he is in, he is just chewing the scenery. Like, he is playing up. He is the head evil Andorian, and he is just playing it up. It is so much fun. He makes this episode, like, this episode is, I'll just, spoiler, this is a very, like, I had fun watching this episode, even if there were, Archer and Trips definitely need some cultural sensitivity training. But this episode was really fun to watch, and a lot of it was because Jeffrey Combs is just great.
Right.
I love him. That's great.
So they are taken to a room where all the monks are also being held hostage. And, so none of the Andorians are named. So because we don't get Jeffrey Combs' name, I'm just going to call him Jeffrey.
Sure.
For the sake of this description.
In Star Trek terms, that would be Jeffrey.
Jandorian.
Hey, it's not any weirder than an Andorian named Jennifer. So, you know what? It fits. So Jeffrey keeps asking Archer what his mission was and doesn't believe that they're just there as tourists, which really is the reason that they're there, right? But Jeffrey just doesn't believe him.
I'm sorry, Archer does not say they're tourists.
He does not say they're tourists, but he does just say, like, we were just, like, visiting the monastery. Like, we just wanted to see it. No. And this is where he first calls the humans pink skins.
Yeah.
Just like a derogatory term for the humans.
Love it.
And they continue to do it throughout this episode, and I hate this so much because it just... My problem is the writers are like, what would like a derogatory name for humans be? And came up with something that only applies to white people.
White people. Yeah,
they're the only ones they've met. So.
Is Travis not in this episode at all? I guess he doesn't come down on the away
not on the
mission.
Maria, has Travis been in any episode?
Well, he was in Terra Nova in a real weird way.
Barely.
He's definitely been in episodes.
Barely. He gets like 2 lines in every episode.
He is not. There has not been.
Malcolm gets more scenes.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt about that.
There has not been a Mayweather-centric episode yet.
I think that Terra Nova.
He doesn't even have a big scene anywhere.
Well, he got okay scene time in Terra Nova. You just don't remember it because that was such a crazy episode. But that was also directed by LeVar Burton, and I'm like, I think LeVar Burton was just like, this guy needs to get more screen time.
But even then, it was like barely more than Malcolm usually gets.
Oh, I agree.
In that one episode when they were on the drug trip, like he just fell asleep and he was like asleep for half the episode.
Yeah, no, he's not been. We have not had. It's the Tasha Yar problem where she has not been front and centered. Yeah,
but the other problem is like, okay, well.
And
granted,
Jamie, for your recollection, Tasha Yar was the one lady on TNJ who was killed by the slime monster.
Yeah, I always forget her name because she was like barely in that show.
Yeah, that is correct.
But
right. So,
like the other problem with this is and so I understand like these Andorians have only met the 2 humans, Trip and Archer, who are both white people. But again, that's the show's problem. Like, why don't they have more non-white people so that we don't have an issue like this? But also, every single Vulcan in this episode, and there are a dozen of them, there are 12 Vulcans that are taken hostage, plus there's T'Pol, are all also white people. So it's confusing to me that they would come up with a derogatory term for humans that would also apply to the Vulcans that are there. Like, the whole thing is just weird.
I think it's... Well, I wonder...
What if they called them round ears? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, well, so the Andorians, I think, have round ears.
Hey, no antenna head.
Yeah. Smooth head.
I just feel like these writers could have come up with something else, and I bet that these writers did not even stop to think about the fact that this term would not have worked for non-white people.
Right. Agreed. No, I agree.
But anyways, we can move on from that. The Vulcans, so the Andorians leave, and then the Vulcans explain to everyone else, so this is where we get all of our exposition, that the Vulcans so the Andorians resent the Vulcan superior reason or reasoning.
They hate our freedoms.
It was literally that.
Okay.
And the Vulcans have recently negotiated a treaty.
We devastated the forest that sustained life on their colonies, but they really hate our freedoms.
Right.
So recently the Vulcans have negotiated a treaty with the Andorians, but there are some groups of Andorians that believe that the monastery is hiding a long-range sensor array that is being used to spy on the Andorians, which would violate the treaty. Okay. And Archer's like, are you? And they're like, no, this is just a monastery. It's just for spiritual stuff. We're not hiding anything.
Do we cut to all the Vulcans having their fingers crossed behind their backs?
But then the Vulcan monk says that the thing is that this happens all the time. This is like the fourth time that the Andorians have showed up and done this at the monastery, and that it's fine. All they do is they lock them in a room for a bit. They look around, and then when they don't find anything, they give up and leave.
Stop. Okay, now this is getting past political implications and getting into sex play. This is the fourth time they've showed up. They lock us, they tie us up and throw us in the closet. Do you have any defenses? Oh God, no.
Why would we? Great. We love it. We're so bored. We have no technology.
We have no technology. We're sitting here contemplating the Pythagoras theorem and stuff. It livens things up on the weekends, you know.
They're nice boys.
But the problem now is because the humans showed up, it made the Andorians way more suspicious.
Oh, it made it weird.
And so he says that now he tells Archer and Trip that they have put them all in danger. And then Trip is like, oh, so no good deed goes unpunished.
What good deed? There was no good deed.
What good deed? Like, you did not do anything. Like, I was trying to figure out what, like, maybe he was referring to them, like, attacking the one Andorian, but then that didn't do anything. They just got held hostage, too. So it's not really clear what good deed he did.
But that's probably what he was talking about.
I think he was probably referring to their rescue attempt. Like, they figured out that there was
but it was still a little bit like...
here.
And here's the thing, Trip. Once again, you did it wrong or badly or failed entirely, which is kind of your thing. Like, Trip, has Trip shown himself to be competent in any situation thus far?
I want to know. Competent thing in this episode.
We're
almost there.
I know
that's the first.
I know I've said this before, but if this was just a rip-off show, if this was just a show like, what was it, Andromeda or anything, if this was just a rip-off show trying to ride on Star Trek's coattails, it would make sense that it was bad, because they don't have a backstory. This is a Star Trek show. This is the fourth live-action Star Trek show.
Yep, so it is.
Back on the Enterprise, who do you guys think is in charge, actually?
Porthos.
Oh,
like, who's next in command?
So Trip and Archer are down there, so...
Malcolm?
Oh, yeah, Mal.
Yeah, it's Malcolm. Malcolm is in charge.
Sure. The other white guy. Yep. It's
That's
the
what I
hierarchy
assumed.
of white guys. It's the chair of command. It's the...
It is true that it is all three. It is, well, I guess T'Pol is technically for some reason number
seized
2.
command.
Yeah, there was that whole weird thing where she was like, I'm the captain now.
I still feel like when Archer's not there, she's in command.
Yeah, she looks at me.
I think it goes Archer, T'Pol. It goes Archer, T'Pol, Trip, Malcolm, and then all the people of color at the bottom.
Yeah, and in one, like, all the same. Like, all this, they're all tied for fifth.
The one guy who went off screaming into the wilderness is the next in after.
Go to hell, guy!
So they now notice that there's another ship in orbit, which I'm like, why didn't they notice that when they got there? Because Andorians were clearly there before them.
Right. They were on the other side of the planet? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But Malcolm is worried because they haven't heard from the landing party, but Hoshi thinks he's overreacting. She literally uses the word overreacting.
Jesus Christ.
And then now in my favorite like cut of the episode, Hoshi says they're probably just taking a tour. Cut down to the planet where Archer is getting punched in the face.
Hoshi is literally
Bicep
just...
Paul.
This is Hoshi's payback for the gaslighting in that one episode where she was like, "Do you guys hear something? Something seems off." And they were like, "You're insane."
This fucking show.
So, so we cut back to the planet and Archer is getting beat up by the Andorians and they're like asking him questions, trying to like ask him like, why are you there? And like, where's the sensor array and stuff. And
What were you intending to do with Clang?
and their communicators have been taken away from them and are sitting on a table in the room with the Andorians. And then one of them just starts chirping. Yeah, one of them starts chirping because Malcolm is like calling down to them to be like, "Hey, what's going on with you guys?" And Jeffrey goes and picks it up and tells Malcolm that Archer is a prisoner and says that if they arm the weapons on the ship or try to approach the surface, he's going to kill all of the hostages. And then he smashes the communicator. So back on the Enterprise, Hoshi's like, we lost contact. And Malcolm's like, try one of the other ones. So then she just like tries the other two communicators and then Jeffrey smashes those two.
Smashes that one.
Yeah, so then all the communicators are smashed.
I feel like that's a dumb move on Jeffrey's part because you gotta have some method of communicating for this hostage negotiation.
So immediately after being told, if you send a shuttle down, we're going to kill all the hostages, Malcolm goes,
a shuttle down.
Go put the shuttle on standby.
Excellent.
And Travis, in like practically one of the only lines he has in the episode, he's basically like, they literally just told us they would kill the hostages if we send a shuttle. And Malcolm does not give a fuck. He is going to send that shuttle.
Now's Malcolm's turn to shine.
He's like, I have been waiting for this moment.
Okay, I'm bringing this back. This is the Terran Star Empire because if you kill a higher ranking person in the Terran, you move into their position.
Into their role.
It's
all falling into place.
This is taking place in the mirror universe, guys.
So Archer is back with the hostages, and he apparently knows Malcolm well because he's like, guys, Malcolm is going to send a shuttle and is going to get us all killed.
I know that crazy motherfucker. He's coming down here.
He's like, we got to do something. He's like, the Andorians are like looking for this stuff and they're not finding what they're looking for. And then Trip goes, they could probably find anything they're looking for with those antennas of theirs, which is like so insensitive. Like, we don't even know what their antennas do.
They're straight up racist. Like,
okay.
What?
Here's my thing, because this came up with the John McCain thing. Like, he said something, he was at a banquet or something, an official state dinner, and he spotted the guy who tortured him when he was a prisoner. If somebody tortures you, you're allowed to say mean things about them. Okay.
But did the Andorian torture? Did that happen? Did I miss that?
Well, they beat up Archer.
Oh, yeah, they beat up Archer. Fair. No. Maybe.
Anyway.
So Archer's like, this is not good. Like, Malcolm's definitely going to send a shuttle. Like, we need a way to contact him to tell him not to send the shuttle. So he goes, if anyone has a suggestion, I'm all ears. And then he looks over at the Vulcans and goes, no offense. which is so offensive.
Fuck.
All right, what's your excuse for that one, Bill?
Fuck. No, I don't have an explanation. If only he had said, if anyone has a suggestion, I'm all pointy ears.
Oh my god.
I mean, it is like...
Jesus Christ. What is going on? Okay, I'm sorry. We need to have a discussion. What the fuck is going on with this show? In terms,
That's what we're trying to figure out.
No, just in
These
terms of
humans
what...
were
just in terms-
chosen to be the first people that the first humans that other alien
Okay.
cultures meet.
Let's...
No cultural
These humans were the
training at
ones
all.
chosen.
Just in terms of what you two think, what are they trying to do with this show? Because if this is a show about these are the first humans
I think
in
they
space,
just think these are funny jokes and don't realize how bad it makes the characters look.
I think that maybe I agree with you, Jamie. I think that's primarily that. I think they are doing it maybe under the guise of the whole point of this is the first ship doing this is look how much they're going to fuck up. They kind of want to show Starfleet before it was competent, which would be an interesting show if they did it. But they have to be less competent than the original series, but more competent than we are today.
This is
in
my
our
point.
Current world.
This is my point. Is like they are literally treating this like they're slightly less colonialist than, the Age of Discovery in human terms, where it's like, oh,
Sure.
there are these native people. Let's give them blankets with hepatitis on them to completely wipe them out so we can take out this land and harvest their resources.
This is a step above that.
This is supposed to be a level
Slightly.
of sensitivity. Like, we are exploring. We
legitimately
don't want to hurt these people.
Think the writers just think it's funny. And I think that they love the personality of like Trip and Archer are gonna do their thing, and they're not gonna be politically correct.
Wise cracking pal.
So
Like, I think they think this is fun and endears people to them.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you think this is a proto Lower Decks, where it's just like we're gonna make the jokes about Star Trek that Star Trek cannot make about it. Like, we're just gonna
Maybe.
Yeah, but
the
Lower
jerky
Decks doesn't
boys
have
of Star
its
Trek.
Characters acting like, if a character said something like that, people would be like, "Dude, that's not cool. What are you doing?"
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we're also
Like,
looking
it's
at
gonna
this
make jokes that we can laugh at. Like, it's fun. I think it's fine for us outside Star Trek world to laugh at pointy ears because Vulcans do not really exist. But in the world of the show, it's like really rude.
But it's also 22 years ago, and
this feels this
it
is the
doesn't
point where
feel like with my current sensibilities, I see that, but I'm not sure I would have 20 years ago.
Wait, it was 2001?
yeah.
I do feel like, so I was in high school at the time. I feel like this was like peak, like people pushing back on political correctness.
There is
Like,
that.
It was just
And so I think that this is part of that, as it was just like, we're not going to try to be politically correct. They're just going to, like, it's funny when they'd say this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that might be very
as
true.
I think I mentioned, like, Baywatch had just ended, which was a really stupid show that was incredibly popular worldwide.
Wild how popular that show was.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It was canceled. It was on a network, then it was canceled, then became so popular in international syndication that they brought it back in syndication.
Germans love David Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff. And everybody loves boobs.
And everybody loves boobs.
So, the Vulcans say that they have an old transmitter, but it's broken. And I think it was Trip that's like, "Oh, you said you didn't have any technology." And they're like, "Well, it's old and it's broken. And it's in the catacombs where we keep our most sacred relics and honored dead."
Fucking hell. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take a hit on this.
We are
aren't
going down to the catacombs.
Oh my god.
So the head monk like does this thing where he like turns a statue, And then like the wall opens up.
Love a secret passages. I love a fucking secret passage.
Me too. I love a secret passage.
I was just like,
I found out.
this means they all could just escape?
That's a great point.
They do not. Spoiler, they do not escape. But they could. So the head monk goes down into the catacombs again, where they keep their most sacred relics and honor dead with Trip.
Oh no.
It's just the two of them.
Sure,
and they both have
this will
torches.
go just fine.
This is getting into Don Knotts territory where he's like trying to find like, what's the ghost haunting this castle? Uh-oh.
So they go in and it's the Star Trek cave, the same cave we saw last week, the same cave we see in every Star Trek episode with a cave.
Yep.
It's literally the exact same cave that they were in last week.
The guy who was the angry alien in the last episode is just sitting there smoking a cigarette. Oh shit, I gotta get out.
But there's like random relics just like on the floor, like leaning against walls, like covered in like cobwebs.
Oh, clearly
and there's
sacred.
mummies.
They're so spiritually
Super
important.
sacred, guys.
Yeah.
Super
Like
sacred.
everything's dusty. And then there's like
Great
these
job,
like
guys.
creepy mummies. And Trip does kind of like he trips a little bit and like falls and almost
Trip.
like it looked like he was going to set a mummy on fire, but he did not. He did not set the mummy on
Did
fire.
I call
Bill. You called
So
it.
you
Good job.
won this one, Bill.
It was because it was accidentally.
Well, he just didn't set anything.
didn't do it at all.
No mummies got set on fire, but he almost. It was like close.
No.
Like I thought it looked like he was about to.
No mummies were set on fire in this episode.
So as they're walking along, there's like this one weird hallway to the side that Trip looks down, and he sees at the end of it like 3 spots of light, but that's not the way they're going. So they keep going and they get to the transmitter, and Trip like pulls off a piece of it and seems to think he can fix it.
It says V'ger, 1967.
I also there were actually mummies though.
Yeah, there were mummies.
But
They were like
Vulcans have
dusty
mummies.
mummies. Yeah, because it's their honored dead. They apparently like mummify them.
That's extreme. This gets into an extremely.
It
weird
wasn't a mummy.
area
Like
of-
it didn't have like fabric around them, but they were like
Oh,
they
but
were
they're,
like
like,
wrinkled,
desiccated?
like desiccated.
Desiccated.
Yeah.
Humans.
Okay.
So later they're all back at the in the hostage room, and there's apparently it's like cold, but there's only one blanket for some reason.
It's literally called the hostage room. Why did you even have this room?
Well, I mean, this is like the 4th time that the Andorians showed up, so at this
Again,
point, it makes sense to have like a hostage room.
This is
Honestly, you'd think
this
they
is the
would have like.
hostage room. This is the jungle room. Over here is it's a Fanta suite at this point.
Yeah, this keeps happening so much that you'd think they would have put more blankets in there. 'Cause there's only the one blanket.
They're so inconsiderate.
You'd think they would have like prepped. Well, like the Vulcans
they
should have
could-
prepped
yeah.
for it. And
You're
been like,
right.
well,
Like,
we
put a-
know
put
this
a-
is always the hostage room.
No.
We should
Like, just
some
put a
stuff in
mini
there.
fridge in there.
No,
like,
it's-
get a couple beers,
it's-
maybe a TV. It'd be great. It's
It's-
just like a break.
It's part of the erotic play for them that there is only one blanket and they need to fight over who gets it. It's like
Bill,
it's like girls having a pillow fight. It's like, no, there's only one blanket. No, it's my blanket. No,
Bill?
it's my blanket.
You don't know how right you're about to be.
Oh my god!
Yes, you are all gonna you're gonna get to the final episode of the final piece of Star Trek. Is like executive producer Bill Stein.
That was the real twist.
So there's only one blanket for some reason, and the Vulcan monk offers it to Archer.
It looks
And
like
Archer
we'll have
takes
to
it.
cuddle together for warmth.
Bill. So Archer notices that T'Pol is behind him and she's shivering. So he offers the blanket to her. And she tells him, "You need it more than me."
Okay.
So then they have this conversation about like what the plan is. Archer says that he thinks they should use the transporter, which he calls a transporter, no longer transport device. Right. He wants to use the transporter to bring in an assault team.
Or we could just leave.
Yeah, or we could leave and just tell them to pick us up 5
miles
away.
I didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. That makes so much more sense.
Yep.
Just call them up, tell them we're going to be 5 miles away in a couple of hours. Just pick us up there.
I mean, I guess the monks are still there, but they could transport the Andorians to the Enterprise and take them, like, put them all in, like, the brig.
Also a real good idea. Yeah. Although I don't know that they would know where the Andorians are. Although we know
it's not clear how they know where anything is with the transporter, because they're not even used to doing it with humans.
Yeah, you're right.
So or they could just transport everybody to the Enterprise.
Yeah, but then the Andorians are going to destroy all the sacred relics. The Vulcans are very upset about that. The Vulcans are real worried about the Andorians destroying their sacred relics.
All right.
There is so much talk of sacred relics in this episode.
Yeah, no, they should have just transport the Andorians into space.
Well, I think that my opinion is the Vulcans being
based on how they've been with other things.
That's kind of what they do. It's their thing.
T'Pol does say that if there's any casualties, that it could mess up the negotiations between.
Oh, right. There's that whole. There is that whole thing that they've set up earlier.
But
still,
honestly, this is a sex hotel, and the humans showed up at exactly the wrong moment and just fucked up everything. So,
Archer wants to have the transporter bring the assault team directly into the atrium where the Andorians are hanging out, and T'Pol points out that it takes so long to like do the thing. It's the sound of the transporter.
The transporter?
Right? Yeah. That like the Andorians can just shoot everybody who's transporting in before they're even like fully in.
Fair point.
So then he's like, well, can't we just transport them to this room? And she's like, oh, right. And have a firefight where there's 12 monks, like, in the center. That seems like someone's going to get hurt.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Or you could transport weapons down and we could arm ourselves.
Yeah. Great question. Great point.
I'm just blue skying here, T'Pol.
It feels like
we are. They're not military experts like you and I, Bill.
And by the way, they do mention the Andorians do not have a transporter on board, so like the Andorian ship would not be able to send reinforcements. So, meanwhile, she is just shivering, like very obviously shivering, and
she's wearing a bodysuit that she has zero body fat, and she's wearing a skin tight bodysuit.
So Archer lifts up his blanket and goes, "There's room in here."
All right.
She tells him that her nasal numbing agent has worn off, and the cold is preferable to his odor.
Oh damn! That is rough.
Damn. And he reaches over and pinches her nose close.
And I've cut these out because there's like so many mentions. Like this episode has so many mentions about the Vulcans thinking that the humans smell bad. Just like so many. But this was the one I wanted to keep in because that was a good one.
That's amazing.
And then Archer just like convinces her.
And Archer says, "Well, freeze, bitch."
So then she like gets under the blanket with him. And she looks so uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, you're under a blanket with your boss. Can
you imagine isn't fully being laying down? She's like up on her arms and is like, she looks so tense. And they're still chatting about this. So she says,
why doesn't she get under the blanket with another Vulcan?
There's
only one blanket.
Well, then Archer gives up the blanket to
You would think.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
You would think. Not asked, not answered.
Archer's not giving up his blanket. There's all these monks there, and Archer's like, nope, my blanket, please.
My blanket, bitches. You can share my blanket, but I'm not giving it to you.
Does he does he take a staff and make a little tent out of it? He's just sitting.
T'Pol tells him, we don't believe in responding to violence with violence. He says, a little violence might help. And then he says, this is a quote, "You people think you're so damn enlightened."
Oh my good lord.
And
Was that wrong?
this show knows
Yeah, fair.
that he should not be saying "you people," because immediately it cuts to the monks, and the monks are like looking at him because like everybody can hear this conversation.
Well, yeah, they're in a tiny room.
And Archer looks at the monks and goes, "Problem?"
What? This is so. You know what he said earlier, where he was like, "A little violence is sometimes the solution," or something like that. I can't remember what exactly.
A little
the quote
violence
is.
might help.
A little violence might help. I feel like that might be Archer's general like rule. Like that is his motto. Like a little violence might help because he reacts violently so quickly and so easily, and
To a bunch of monks who literally the only thing they did was raise their eyebrows a little bit at him calling them "you people."
Also, it's like they're monks. It's being enlightened is literally their thing. Like even if they don't care about the you people or think you're so enlightened, like that's literally my job.
But T'Pol is like pretty upset at this point because he's kind of questioning her loyalty. And then I think she actually says like, "Are you questioning my loyalty?" And he says, "I just want to know where you stand." And she says, "I've never disobeyed your orders."
I'm sorry. As we've established in the first episode, loyalty is an emotion.
Good point.
Also, if these, I'm sick of analyzing this. I literally don't know what this show is trying to do. If
Good
these
thing you were
monks
on a podcast about it.
I need that. I need you to clip that. I'm so sick of analyzing this show and put it as a bumper somewhere, please.
If these Vulcans have completely stripped themselves of emotion, wouldn't they be huddling together to keep?
Right, because that's the logical thing to do. Maybe are the monks doing that?
No,
I guess
they're just like everybody's like spread out in the room on the floor.
I guess I'm applying the idea of the preservation of life is the highest good.
Right.
Like they Vulcans don't like contact. They don't like but this is a matter of survival, so they should be huddling. Everybody should be huddling together. Now,
yeah.
anyway.
So when she says that, she says, "I have never disobeyed your orders," and then she turns over, taking the blanket with her.
Yeah,
My girl!
Pulling the blanket off of him, and now she's got the blanket, and Archer is going to be
My
cold.
girl!
So, I'm sorry, Jamie. What does this blanket look like? It's not like I assume
It's
not
like
a
a
Southwest.
It's
Southwest.
like an airplane.
No,
airplane blanket
it's
is what
worse.
I
It
have
is
in my
like
head.
this
It
blanket
doesn't
looks
have-
like they grabbed it off a mummy in the catacombs.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it has mothballs in it. And
I was
is
seriously
dusty.
hoping that it had like a Southwest New Mexico, like those patterns on it, and she just like turns it over.
So
They're all just getting the mummies together and burning them in a pile to keep warm, and they're just putting their hands next to them.
so later.
Where's Trip? Where the fuck is Trip?
Oh, he's in the room and he's like he's trying to fix. He had taken apart from the.
Oh yes,
from
he's trying to fix the radio. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the radio thing,
Okay.
and he brought it back to the room with him, and is trying to fix it in the room.
Okay.
They actually offer the blanket to him first, and he says he doesn't. It would just get in his way because he's not sleeping. He's working on the radio thing.
I got entirely blitzed out of my mind and fixed a triphasic warp engine while I was doing jello shots. I don't need your fucking blanket.
So he
didn't fix it.
I know.
so
It broke
6
again in
days.
6 days.
Okay, he fixed it for 6 days. Also, it is clear that these aliens were fucking up their own engine so that they could impregnate other races. Okay,
Guys, we cannot. We
But
can't go backwards,
here-
only forwards.
He successfully fixes it.
Yes, he does.
So he goes back down to the radio and then contacts the Enterprise and tells them to wait, to just sit tight and await further instruction.
He fixes the radio and says, "Sit tight."
Well, because
Jesus.
he doesn't want them to send the shuttle and get
Do
them all
not.
killed.
I repeat,
They're like,
do not
"Welcome,
send
we'll
a
100% get us all
motherfucking shuttle
killed."
down.
Malcolm replies, "Operation Total Party Kill is an operation confirmed."
So back with the hostages, they're trying to formulate a plan. And Trip mentions those like 3 lights down the hallway that he saw earlier. And they're kind of like, I wonder if that is actually the eyes and mouth of that creepy wall statue. And that like basically you can be behind the wall from inside the catacombs.
Oh.
So Archer then tells the Andorians that he needs to speak with them alone because he has information for them. And they take him to the atrium. And then he is just like, he's clearly like got a plan that he's trying to do that he needs to be in the atrium for. So he is just like blabbing to them. He says like, oh, I just needed to get out of there, needed to get fresh air because the Vulcan's robes haven't been washed since the time of Surak.
Sure.
Do you guys know who Surak is? I was kind
I
of
believe he was the, if I'm remembering correctly, he was the Jesus of logic on Vulcan. He was the one. Because
I think Archer says he was a philosopher.
Oh, so primary logic dude?
Vulcans used to be extremely violent and passionate and stuff, and he was the logic guy.
Okay, computer, who is Surak?
Surak was a legendary Vulcan philosopher, scientist, and logician, considered the greatest of all who ever lived on Vulcan, and the father of the modern Vulcan civilization.
So the Andorians are beating him up again and telling him to give him the info he has. And he is just
Archer? Okay.
babbling. He tells them, he's like, okay, I got some information. He's like, did you know that over 70% of the organisms on my homeworld are bacteria?
That's not... Do the Andorians literally just go, what?
Yeah.
What?
Which, by the way, I tried to figure out if this was true, and I couldn't figure it out.
And then Archer goes, no, hit me on the left side, little lower. There we go.
There
Yes.
it is.
I did find that 13% of biomass is bacteria, but I couldn't figure out like number of organisms.
Sure.
Also, 70 to 90% of the cells in a human body are bacteria. I learned from trying to find this.
Cool.
Huh. That's wild.
Yeah, which is terrifying. Like
Really
we are mostly
terrifying.
bacteria.
70 to 90%?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot.
Completely believe
I
that.
know. My job. He should have said that fact.
I don't like that. I don't like it.
He
I'm
also
gonna choose not to believe it.
Are you gonna go into a shower now and scrub yourself silly to?
No,
to
I need lotion. I need gel.
Destroy these organisms that are literally keeping you alive and healthy. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Go. Okay.
that are literally you, like you are organisms.
Yeah, exactly.
You are
Yeah,
bacteria. Archer also tells them that a man from Ohio rolled a giant ball of string. And he also tells them about how Tycho Brahe lost his nose in a duel over a math equation.
Oh, I love this. This is classic. This is classic torture stuff.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, you just tell him.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're just
I love
like beating him up, and he's like moving closer and closer to that giant mouse statue thing, or the giant face statue.
Oh,
and then when he
okay.
gets close to it, he takes out of his pocket, like he's got this like tiny little like green statuette, and he takes it out of his pocket, reaches behind him, and like drops it in the mouth of the statue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then we cut back to Trip in the catacombs, and he is behind the giant face.
Right, the other side.
And he picks up the statue that Archer dropped, and then he goes back to the hostage room. Archer's back in that room now too, and he just hands him the statue.
Okay.
And apparently they did this to confirm whether
There was
that
there
was
a
really the
passage.
wall. But the thing is, these
Excellent.
holes are so big that like
Can he not look?
they could just look through them. Like they did not need Archer to. There was no reason for Archer to get beat
think
up. They
you're-
could have just gone to the back and looked through the hole, and they would have
boy.
seen that it was like these are so big. These holes.
Bill, this is a sex thing theory is
Yeah,
becoming
100%.
really, really plausible.
Well, it's Riker's holodeck fan fiction. So
oh, fair.
So here's the question. So there's a big face there. They don't do a scene where there's one eye pressed up against the giant eye, and you see the eye like looking around.
Yeah, like in a picture. In a painting in an old movie.
In a mystery movie, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So back on the Enterprise, Malcolm and two red shirts are preparing to be transported. And who do you think is running the transporter controls?
Gotta be Hoshi. If it's not Porthos, it's gotta be Hoshi.
It should be Travis.
It's Hoshi. Hoshi
Fucking, I
is
am
running
hitting
the transporter
threes in this
controls.
episode.
You are kicking ass.
They could
in
have
this
just had
episode.
a random ensign that you're like, surely that's one of the engineering guys.
Some actor who picked up a paycheck for that week and paid his, rent.
Truly, like
I don't.
like 100 years later or whenever TNG takes place, they have a guy whose entire job is transporter guy. Like, because this is apparently such a difficult job that you have to get right or you will mess
should
up people's bodies.
We should definitely give that to Hoshi.
I do not trust Hoshi to translate peace. I absolutely would not trust her to operate transporter.
And at the very least, they could have had Travis, who at least seems to have technical experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, Travis has worked on a cargo ship. He's probably very familiar with the transporter.
Oh my god, he's probably so familiar with the transporter.
Yeah, it's
I forgot
probably
about
like
that.
the one thing he knows how to do really, really well.
I really hope as they're transporting, as the gold, flecks are transporting around, the last thing they hear is Hoshi going, "What does this do?"
No, as she's hitting the button, she just goes, "Good luck," in a way that she's like literally unsure if they're going to survive this transport.
The last thing she says is, "Oh no, wait." Oops.
So, now we've got Malcolm and the Red Shirts are in the catacombs.
Malcolm and the Red Shirts was a band I was really into in
Good band.
84. Oh.
Real good band.
And Malcolm is behind the face statue. And he is looking through one of the holes, spying on the Andorians, proving that you could have done that.
I am.
Do that before. Archer just wanted to get the shit kicked out of him.
Archer
That's
just
the only
wanted
answer to this.
to get beat
He
up.
wanted it. He was
Fam, just-
literally
He was getting off
asking
on
for
it.
it.
Fam, just to let you know, I wrote this episode. Just to be full disclosure.
We all know Riker wrote this episode. Now we know what he is into. So, guys, Malcolm finally gets to blow something up. He has been wanting to blow something up for 7 episodes.
For so long.
He fully blows up this entire face statue. The face statue is incinerated, it is gone. He blows the whole thing up.
The incredibly sacred Vulcan
So neither of us
statue
got
in
it
their-
right.
in their most holy site. No, I got it right.
No,
I
Bill got it
predicted
right.
that
Oh, sorry.
sorry. The lie was
Bill
that
got it
Malcolm accidentally set a mummy on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
So then there's a firefight. Everyone's shooting at each other. 2 of the Andorians escape into the catacombs. And then a Vulcan monk says, "I hope you're pleased, Captain. You turned a place of solitude into a war zone."
Well, I think the Andorians turned it into a war zone.
Well, apparently they would have just left if no one did anything. The Andorians were going to just leave.
Well, again, this gets it. This
Or at
is a
least the
sex
monks thought
thing.
they were.
You've
makes
turned a
so
place
little
of
sense.
sex into it. You've turned our fetish site into a place of death.
So everybody in the Enterprise starts to go down to the catacombs, and then one of the younger monks says he's going to go too. And the head monk tells him violence is no longer our way. But the younger monk replies, we must protect what's ours. And then he takes one of the phaser guns, which for some reason there's an extra one. It's not really clear why they brought in. Maybe they brought extra guns for the monks in case the monks would want them. So they're in the catacombs and they're trying to follow the Andorians.
Fucking show.
And the Andorians had gone down some hall or whatever, but the monk guy that went with them stops them and says that only members of the High Order are allowed inside that area. It's the reliquary.
So I'm going to tell you, obviously, the crew of the Enterprise completely respects this rule. And this is the end of the episode.
I'm sure.
End of episode.
Yep, end of episode. It's
Everybody lives happily ever after.
We did what we could, but we respected this. We respected the most holy site.
This monk says that he'll go in himself and disarm them all by himself. And Archer is like, have you even ever used that gun before? And clearly he hasn't. So then Archer just pushes past him and they all go down there and Archer sort of promises that they won't look at anything.
It's like, I'm gonna close my eyes.
It's like we won't look at any of the sacred relics that we're not supposed to be seeing.
Oh my God.
We're doing Marco.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So they get down there and then there's a firefight in the reliquary and sacred relics
Fucking
are just
hell.
being destroyed.
Of course
Fucking
they are.
hell.
Yeah, just destroyed.
They're just like shooting the sacred relic. They're like breaking apart. There's like stuff going everywhere. Against one wall is this like giant curtain, and the curtain is like hit by some phaser fire, and one end of it starts to come off. And Archer notices that behind it is a giant, suspicious-looking round metal door.
Oh my God.
That is like everything else in here is so dusty and dark, and this is like this clean
Pristine.
metal door. So as he's still being shot at, Archer like goes over the curtain and pulls the entire curtain off. And
The
then
Wizard of Oz.
everyone sees the door, and then he like reaches up while he's still being shot at and like presses a button and the door opens. And then everybody stops fighting because they're just like, what the fuck is going on? And then everybody, Andorians, humans, T'Pol, everyone, I guess except the monk guy, goes over to the entrance of this door and looks inside, and there is a giant, like high-tech room with Vulcans walking around doing some sort of work.
Sensor
Those
array.
lying
Yep, T'Pol
Vulcans.
confirms that it is a
Motherfuckers.
high-end sensor array. And Archer tells her to start taking scans. And then the monk shows up, and he has a phaser pointed at Archer's back. And he says, everyone has to put his weapons down or he's going to kill him. So everyone starts to put their weapons down, including the Andorians. I was like, why do they care if Archer gets killed?
And the Andorians. Oh,
They're
man,
like,
I don't want
oh,
no
no.
trouble.
What should we do?
God damn it, we're huge fans of Quantum Leap. How can you do this to us? My
And-
grandmother loves NCIS New Orleans.
But this monk is clearly inexperienced, and so Archer just sort of twists out of the way and punches the
Yes,
monk
he
in the
does.
face.
Oh, does he do the twist where he grabs the gun out of his hand?
Yeah, he like does like a twisty and like gets the gun and then
Fucking
punches him in the
yeah.
face. And then T'Pol says that her scan's completed, and Archer tells her to give her all the information to the Andorians. And she hesitates, but then hands it over to Jeffrey. And then Archer says that he tells Jeffrey that the Vulcans violated their treaty and their people ought to know about it. Then he turns to T'Pol and says, do you have a problem with that? So T'Pol asks Malcolm for his communicator, takes it, calls the Enterprise, and tells them that the Andorians are going to be going back to their ship and to just let them leave. Proving that she is going to be loyal to Archer. And then Jeffrey tells Archer, we are in your debt, and leaves.
Oh, shit.
Archer then walks out. As he's walking out, he steps over the monk that he had just punched in the face and says, thanks for the tour. End of episode.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, this show does end very abruptly in a lot of situations.
The number of sacred relics that they destroyed. I feel like the show's trying to say all of that was okay because the Vulcans were like lying about this thing. But it was clearly a real monastery, and these were
Right.
actually sacred relics.
Was it though? Like, obviously,
And
like,
they didn't know
you
until
don't-
the end. I just feel like it doesn't excuse their behavior up
Okay.
till that point.
Oh, no.
You don't build like the sensor arrays that we have now to detect the SETI arrays. Like,
Right.
you don't just build those in a day. Was this a Spirit Halloween store that they built around this fucking sensor array. Because I get the feeling that the sensor array came first, and then this was built as a cover for this.
It's like that.
But
what was it? That show?
The monastery had been there for 3,000 years.
According to the Vulcans, but all of we've seen is a bunch of. We've
Vulcans
seen
I
straight
think
up
I
lying.
think the monastery was there first, and then they built this underground thing under it because they figured
Under it.
nobody but us ever goes to this monastery.
with the answer, because it just feels like you walk into a spirit. It literally feels like you walk into a Halloween.
I mean,
store.
even T'Pol was surprised. Like, she was not ready for this.
Right.
You walk
This
into
is
a Halloween
clearly like a
store and they
top
have the-
secret.
Yeah, but the Vulcans clearly do literally suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
For
so
sure.
the
Yeah,
so
I
the
kind
one
of
truth
like
was,
them being. They're almost like the big bad of this show, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
pretty
100%.
fun.
Yeah. It's interesting because like
Yeah,
they're
it's a fun
not
inverse.
being honest. And it's
So-
an interesting and hopefully it has a lot of potential to make things really interesting for T'Pol as a character, right?
So,
Yeah.
So the lie of this episode was the Vulcans who never lie were literally
Lie.
caught in a lie.
Yeah,
Like, they-
these monks
they
the whole
entered-
time
Yeah.
they kept saying
They
like, we don't
entered
have any
into it.
technology, we have no
Yeah.
sensor arrays here.
They
Like
entered it-
they were not like playing around it, trying to
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah, they
oh,
weren't
like-
bending the truth. They were
they weren't
straight up
bending.
lying.
They were straight up lying.
These Vulcans entered into a treaty in bad faith.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I know, like, I feel like even I have heard that, like,
Because-
oh, it's a myth that they can't lie. I think that they just find it difficult to lie. So my overall impression, this was actually a pretty fun episode. Obviously, everybody in the Enterprise needs to take some sensitivity training, but otherwise, like, it was really fun. Jeffrey Combs was like so great. It just every one of his line readings was
He's
wonderful.
one of the classics.
God,
people
he's so
who excel in B movies are amazing to me because if
Mm-hmm.
you can take bad dialogue and make it sing, you are an actor of the first class. Yeah.
So the next, okay, sorry. So now for our special segments, the Porthos good boy scale. Porthos is always a good boy, but apparently the director of this episode was not, because there was no Porthos.
No
in this
Porthos.
episode.
This
How
is now
amazing!
2 episodes in a row
Two
without Porthos?
episodes in a row
That's
with
some
no
bullshit.
Porthos. It's
How
pretty
amazing
upsetting.
would it be if they beamed Porthos down to the main chamber and the Andorian's like, oh my god, look at this beagle! He's so amazing! Look at that puppy! He's a beautiful puppy.
And it
I'm kind of surprised they didn't decide to bring Porthos down to the sacred monastery that they were
Really good point.
building. Oh man, I should have done that as my lie.
Yeah.
So now we've got our sexy scale, or I think wait, was it saucy? Bill, did you have
The
another
saucy
name? The
section.
saucy section.
The saucy section.
So
The saucy
how
section.
saucy was this episode on a scale of every time Worf and Dax kissed in DS9 to 7 of 9? To be clear, the Worf and Dax kissing is the least sexy thing that has ever been on Star Trek.
Oh really? Okay. Fair
I'm-
enough.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's
but
awkward. It's not great.
Star Trek, at least up, maybe the new ones, it's a little different. I haven't seen much of those, but at least all these old ones, there is no there's no kiss that is sexy. Every kiss is just like deeply unsexy.
I would disagree. There are some original series. There's a lot of
Okay, yeah, I
sexy
haven't really
kissing
seen much original series,
Okay.
so maybe there is some sexy
Yeah.
kissing, but
There's some passionate stuff in there.
TNG and then I don't know what happened because TNG and
TNG
DS9
was very
cannot do a sexy
clinical.
kiss. Every time
Yeah.
characters kiss, it is unsettling, I believe would be the right word for it. So
How sexy was this episode, Jamie?
I skipped there was some stuff that I did not tell you about that I'm going to tell you about now. So yeah, I could have talked about, I thought about talking about the under the blanket scene, which was more uncomfortable than sexy. But no, actually there was some stuff in this episode that was somehow even worse than the Worf and Dax kissing, because at least those were consensual.
Oh no.
There is one of the Andorian goons, not Jeffrey Combs, one of his goons, is through this entire episode being super creepy to T'Pol. Like,
No.
when she's first taken hostage, he tells her that he's going to enjoy having her as his prisoner in like a creepy way.
Oh.
But then later, he goes up to her and he says, I've heard about your mating rituals. That Vulcan, and then he says that Vulcan women force their men to fight each other to the death. And he says, would you like me to kill someone for you?
Ew. Ew.
And then
Actually happens in the original series.
Yeah, I know.
Archer is like, leave her alone. And the Andorian turns to T'Pol and whispers in her ear, would you like me to kill him?
She thinks about
honestly,
it
like
real
I said,
hard.
this isn't sexy because it's not consensual, but honestly, I don't hate this.
I don't hate that idea.
No,
Yeah,
there's a Family Guy cutaway joke where T'Pol looks at Archer, looks at the Andorian, looks at Archer, looks at the Andorian.
I'm thinking, hold on.
No, but seriously, like, what is this with Vulcan women force their men to fight each other to the death?
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
Did you? That's an original
Yeah,
series episode.
that's 100% a thing.
What what is the con? I don't understand.
But basically, I think what the answer to your question is if there are two Vulcans who are competing for the same female, then they
than
have
just
to
having her
fight
choose.
to the death.
Fight to
It's
the death.
literally the opposite of every other thing that Vulcans do.
Everything about Vulcans.
Like it's the absolutely illogical. It absolutely makes no sense, and they are 100% controlled by their emotions in this.
Yeah.
And this is how they mate. So there's a lot
actually-
of questions about how evolution works. For these guys.
There's a fantastic book. It's one of the great Star Trek novels. It's a comedy book called How Much for Just the Planet, and they just follow these. At one point, they follow just these two random crew members, and one of the jokes is, "Hey, what does a Vulcan say before he turns out the light? I don't know. What is it? Will you respect me 7 years from now?" But that's it. Yeah. So that's the thing, is that when Vulcans are in Ponfar, they get extremely violent.
All right.
Vulcan males.
Well, we have a new segment this week called Never Asked, Never Answered, inspired by last week's episode.
Inspired by the whole series, I think.
No.
For something in the episode that made no sense and was never explained. So there were a couple of things that we already discussed that could potentially be used for this segment, like why was Hoshi operating the transporter, or why Archer had to get beat up to put a weird little statue in like a rock mouth.
Oh, I think that
kills
was
me.
explained.
But I didn't mention another thing, and that's that at the very end, when they discover the secret Vulcan spy cave, in the spy cave, there's like a whole bunch of Vulcans in there working. And a whole bunch of aliens just barged into this spy cave door, and none of these Vulcan workers even appear to notice. They're just like walking around
They're
doing
real
their work.
into their
They're
work,
not
man.
even looking over. Like, they have just been discovered. There are aliens that have, like, including they're like alien enemies that they are.
The aliens they are
spying
actively
against.
spying on have shown up.
Yeah, and they do not even glance up from their work.
This show, man.
Does not make sense. No one asked, no one answered. The last segment, technical difficulties. There was not much technobabble in this episode, but the most technobabble thing was when Trip was trying to fix the radio. He said it looked like a Krellide power cell. So now we are at the segment of our show that we like to call Will's Hollow Recs, where we each give our recommendations for non-Enterprise related content that we have been consuming in our holodecks this week. So, Maria, why don't you go first? What is your recommendation this week?
Sure. So I was just recently introduced to a series that's quite old. It was actually the first one was released in 2011. But
Quite
it's
old in
by
2011. Thank you. Fuck you.
A book
It's
series?
a decade. It's a book series. I've been listening to audio, which I highly recommend. It's by Kevin Hearn. And it's the Iron Druid Chronicles. And it's sort of, it's fantasy, but it's based in current times, and it's about this druid who runs around and has various adventures, but the best part about it is he has an Irish wolfhound dog that he has a telepathic connection to. Sure. And so they talk to each other all the time, and on the audiobook they do the voice, and it's absolutely adorable. My best friend, A. Sigler, recommended it to me this past weekend, and I started it, and I love it. I'm only on the first book, but there's many, many books. It sounds
Maria,
great.
can you imagine if your dog Fenrir had a
oh my
psychic
God.
connection with you, and you could hear what he was thinking all the time?
It would be amazing. And they do it so well. Like he doesn't do really well with time. He doesn't fully understand how time works, and he's constantly asking for sausages, and also has a penchant for French poodles. It's the cutest thing ever.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know what my cats are thinking. I don't need any psychic abilities. The way they have been bothering me for the last 20 minutes, and I've been trying very hard not to, just because people listening can't see anything. So I've been trying not to react to the fact that they've been trying to eat my pen and sit on my notes. But what they're saying is dinner? Is it dinner time?
They might also be saying, why are you doing this to yourself? They're sitting on your notes. They're like, stop it. This is not good for you.
It's like
Bill. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's like the old Gary Larson Far Side cartoon where it's like, what dog's here? It's like blah 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 ginger, blah 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 ginger. It's like then he did another one called What Cat's Here? It's just blah 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 blah.
Bill, what is your recommendation today?
My recommendation is a series I've enjoyed thoroughly. It's called Secrets of the Castle, which Americans can watch on Amazon Prime. There is an ongoing project in France called Guédelon Castle. I'm mispronouncing that. Some very rich person has started a project where they're building a medieval castle using medieval terms. And Secrets of the Castle is 3 British historians. This is a 25-year project. They're in year 18. These 3 British historians who do series like this go and work for a year on there. That's not the important part. The important part of the show is one of the historians is a woman named Ruth Goodman. She is a freak and a nerd, and I love her. And her specialty in history is how people lived in domestic life. She is amazing. She is excited about everything she talks about. There's a point where she's describing how they did paintings in the houses, and she's out in the middle of a field, and she said, so we're going to make a paintbrush. So I found a badger. Actually, it was a piece of roadkill. I shaved it, and now we're going to make a paintbrush. Love her. She's written several books. She's in a lot of these series. But Secrets of the Castle. It's just one of those great series about making things using ancient methods.
And I have to tell our listeners, last time the 3 of us were in person together, Bill, you had us watch the show.
Yeah, we
So good.
did watch
And
it.
it was
So
absolutely delightful.
Yeah,
I love her.
it's
She's
so
just
much fun.
She's just one of those people who's just excited about things, which I enjoy.
I love that.
Yeah.
So my recommendation this week is a book. It's called The Library Book by Susan Orlean. Yeah, you're like, probably because you're a movie person.
Well, actually, what I remember was the time that she got super drunk on Twitter and was like,
Oh, that was so I forgot about that. That was really funny.
adorable. She was like it was during COVID, and she got super drunk on Twitter. It was not
That
problematic
was
at all.
early
She-
COVID. That was like April
Yes.
2020. I forgot about that. That was so funny.
It's I every 6 months I go back to that where she just she got just absolutely wasted on Twitter and was not problematic at all. She
was
was just
great.
like, I need to go to bed. All my family is telling me to go to bed. I'm annoying them. Where's my cat? He's my emotional support cat.
He's my drunk comfort animal. It's great. It's incredible.
I 100% forgot about this until now, and thank you so much, Phil, for reminding me of this.
Please go back and read the many articles that were written in New York magazines about Susan Orlean's drunk tweeting.
My favorite part about that, as I recall, is she kept going, "No, I have not been hacked. This is literally me." I love her so much.
And then she posted a photo. I found my cat, and she posted a photo of her cat, which is like, that cat's super judgy. So judgy!
Yeah, this was like the week of lockdown. This was so
Yeah.
early
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah, it was really early on.
It was great.
Well,
and it started with I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
cut
no,
this up.
keep
It's like
going.
it started like she went to her neighbor's house, and they had a horse or a cow that had just had a baby, and it's like she admitted she's drinking wine. It's like, he reaches out to my finger thinking it's an udder. He has tasted the despair of life.
she's an amazing writer, even when she is drunk on
So
Twitter.
great.
Clearly. I'm in.
Yeah, so this book, I think it came out in 2019. It's called The Library Book, again by Susan Orlean. It is about the time in 1986 that the LA Central Library burned down and 400,000 books were burned or
wow.
destroyed. It's interesting because it's a little bit like true crimey, because she's like looking into the guy who was accused of starting the fire and trying to figure out if he really started it or if it was even arson at all. But it's also so much more than that. It's like part memoir. It's part just like treatise on the importance of libraries and their role in culture, a history of libraries, a history of book burnings. It's so
Cool.
much. And because it's Susan Orlean, it is beautifully written. I actually pulled out a line that I wanted to read because there were so many good lines, but I can't just read the whole book to you guys. So I pulled out one of my favorites. She writes, "The library is a gathering pool of narratives and of the people who come to find them. It is where we can glimpse immortality. In the library, we can live forever."
Oh,
Imagine that, but for an entire book. It's
Nice.
truly just very, very good. All right. And that is the episode. We made it. We did it.
We did it, you guys!
4 hours long. I know
Okay.
we've only been recording for 3 hours. I'm going to make this an hour longer.
Next week, we are actually going to have a special guest. Our friend Christian is going to be coming on the show and watching the episode. So none of the three of us are going to be watching it. And he's going to explain it to us. It's going to be Season 1, Episode 8, Breaking the Ice. Special thanks to K.O. Myers at Particulate Media for sound assistance, to our friend David for our beautiful cover art, and to John Stephen King for being the voice of our computer. If you liked the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app of choice, and tell your friends about it. We would really appreciate it. You can also follow us on Instagram at Enterprise Splaining and on Blue Sky at Enterprise Splain. You can also email us any comments or questions, such as, "Why are you doing this?" to enterprisesplaining@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you want to support this podcast, you can find us at Buy Me a Coffee as Enterprise Splaining. See you next week.
Computer and programs.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.